of the Ames Area Metropolitan Planning Organization to order. As you may have guessed, I am not Mayor John Hala, but I'll be filling in for him for the next bit while he is out. First item on the agenda is consent. Would anyone like to pull anything?
Yes, I'd like to pull item 7.
Make a motion approving consent.
I would move consent minus item 7.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Linda?
Yes, on this item, I'd like to call your attention to change request number 2, which is George Washington Carver Avenue, changing from a collector to minor arterial from Barcelona Street to Cameron School Road. Now, I'm understanding this change means eligibility for federal funding, and I wonder if we're doing that, and our other, our consultant's report and everything says that's going to be a roundabout, why we don't extend that line a little more and make sure all of the area that would be in a roundabout would actually be eligible for federal funding. Because the way I look at it, it stops right at Stang. And if we went 200 feet, say in a circle around there or something, what all would be a roundabout or would cover that intersection could then be covered by federal funding. Would that be correct?
Go ahead, Kyle.
Well, a collector is also already eligible for federal aid funding. So even though at least as it's proposed here, it switches, it would be collector north of that intersection. That's still eligible for any federal aid funding.
Okay, it doesn't show how far the collector goes.
I have to pull up. Let me try to pull that up real quick. I believe it goes all the way, through the county and everything.
Yeah, so both GW Carver within the city limits and within Story County and then Cameron School Road, they have some federal functional class. This is just updating the GW Carver section from a collector, I believe, to a minor arterial within the city boundary, which this classification is an urban designation instead of a county, but the whole intersection is federal aid eligible now.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
whether it's county or city.
Is it at a higher level, higher percentage of federal money if it's arterial as opposed to collector?
It's a black and white distinction. So like once you've crossed the line of being federally classified in any way, whether it's county or urban, you're eligible.
Okay,
So-
with that explanation, that's fine.
Yes.
And I move approval of item 7.
Second. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 8 is the hearing on the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Go ahead and open the hearing. Damian, Kyle?
Yeah, this is just the final version of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Since the draft that was approved by the policy committee towards the end of July, we went through a public comment period as well as got input from our state and federal partners. Got some minor comments and kind of updated some figures and tables, but the actual fiscally constrained projects listed in this plan are exactly the same as the draft version. So there was no major changes in projects or the plan itself. The public engagement summary in Appendix E summarizes all the public input we received during the draft to final phase. A lot of the public comments we received were kind of like asking about specific areas in the area or in the region, I should say, but nothing that we thought warranted any adjustments to the plan as a whole. But yeah, again, project list remains the same. So I'll turn it back to the committee with any questions.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Come on up. You can go there. Yeah. Thanks, Grant.
Good evening. There are a couple items that I saw in the plan that I'd like to briefly address,
Can you
and they're in
quickly
the
state your name and address?
Oh,
Sorry.
sure.
Yeah.
Grant Olson, 3812 Ontario Street. Under the high priority projects list, first one would be South Duff between Honda Nissan and Ken Merrill Road. and calling for making it from 3 lanes to 5 lanes. There are approximately 15 house driveways in this area. And by widening the road, that naturally encourages drivers to go even faster than it's either posted at either 45 or 50 mile an hour in that area with those 15 houses. Plus you have the apartment buildings, et cetera. So I believe going from 3 lanes to 5 lanes in that residential-ish area, it would make the area less safe for people in general. The other project to talk about would be Duff Avenue at the railroad, talking about either going under or over. And in the document, it ballparks that grade separation at about $49 million to do that. And that's an opportunity cost. That's an opportunity that we would delay safer routes to schools, safer routes to parks, and better bus service with $49 million. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the hearing. Any questions or comments from the committee?
I just do have one question. It's not on the fiscally constrained projects list here, but I wanted to know, because it is related to some of these, what's going on with Cameron School Road and GW Carver. I think the consultants recommended a roundabout. Is that what we're doing? Is that what the plan is now?
That project is, yeah, as far as the plan is, the preference for that intersection control would be a roundabout in this plan.
Okay, so where is the developer agreement on that issue?
The what?
Developer agreement.
Well, the development agreement is something that's with the city of Ames.
Mhm.
And so really in this capacity, we're only talking about MPO functions. So as far as like how the city of Ames would choose to program or develop that intersection around the development would be up to them.
There's no coordination between the MPO and the city of Ames on that? Sorry.
No, there is. As far as like all the technical staff that has developed this plan, I think the mechanisms of how things get funded and when they happen, as you know, like is up to each jurisdiction to do that project within their boundary.
Oh, I would hate to see that not be a roundabout, because on West 190th and Carver is a roundabout, and West 190th and Grant, Gretton, Hyde, whatever, is a roundabout. So having a stoplight there when the others would be roundabouts would not make a lot of sense in terms of just how people deal with roundabouts and intersections. So, okay. And I do know from some things you had on the agendas was a city. A couple weeks ago, there's about 1,300 new housing units in that area that developers are working on, and that's the most housing units that are in any place where we're looking at intersections, street improvements, whatever. So I just really hope that gets the attention that it needs. Okay, thank you.
Damien, could you speak to the issue of a project at the railroad crossing for Duff? What is the status of that? Where is that located in the details?
It's long-term, is it not?
Well, that project, because it has such a high price tag, isn't in the fiscally constrained plan, so it's not short, mid, or long term. But it is identified as the highest scoring high priority project. So it's an illustrative project as far as this plan is concerned. And I know we're just starting a corridor study of Duff Avenue from that railroad crossing all the way up to 16th Street. And as part of that study, we're going to be looking at the railroad crossing in more detail. And then that'll kind of be where we try to determine next steps.
Yeah, and that study will actually drill down deeper into more detail about the operational and safety benefits of that grade separation crossing. The reason why it shows up in this plan, I think we presented the last time we presented the draft plan, we might have mentioned that when you look at all the arterial streets for the region and trying to keep them operating on somewhat of an equal basis, that grade separation, that the impedance of the train became an issue. But we're definitely very cognizant of the cost of the project, and that's why that corridor study that Kyle talked about will hopefully give us more detail as to whether or not the cost does yield the benefits we would expect. But we
The-
expect it to be, we would hope and expect it to be heavily grant driven.
Yeah, so the city, and Steve can give me the date, but it seems like about 20 to 25 years ago, we looked at that because our office at that point was right there. And so, so there is an existing, we had an outside consultant take a look at that. It's been at least 20 years ago that we did that. So it was very, very expensive then. I'm sure it's crazy now. So, yeah.
Yes, and I think that the study that you were talking about was one of the ways we looked at some of the information that was in there and updated it with this plan. But Duff Avenue is a major north-south arterial street, and it does carry a lot of traffic. So it at least warranted further study, I think, is where staff landed on that issue.
I just want to make sure the public is watching this, isn't under the impression that we're ready to pull the trigger and do a project here on this. This is something that's sort of ways out.
I would believe there's multiple steps
Yeah.
yet to go. So
Thanks.
So Damian and Kyle, can you address Grant's question about, or concern about what's happening between Ken Merrill and along South Duff there? I know that we've had discussions about the shared use path down there, and I know that we also have a state highway that we're dealing with. So could you give us some details on that?
certainly, and I do understand one of the nice, it's kind of a double-edged sword, but one of the nice things about the transportation plan is that it has a very detailed, very technical model. And I think that when you looked at the the capacity of 2 lanes and where the traffic, the amount of traffic we expect, especially with a south growth area, we're eventually going to need two travel lanes down there. So that's why it's going from a 3-lane section to a 5-lane section. But this plan does not do any engineering. It doesn't, it tries to put things in relative timeframes of need, but it doesn't drill down to the level of detail that Grant was talking about as far as the design of the road, how we accommodate PEDs, how we accommodate all the different multimodal things. That's up to the city of Ames when it moves that project forward and all the project detail and engineering design that happens to it. This regional model is just looking at things on a planning level analysis. It doesn't drill any much deeper than that. And it's just saying that at some point in this time frame, in the future, you're going to see enough traffic there that you should probably look at adding additional through lanes.
Well, and I know that when we did all that work on that section of road a number of years ago, that there was a lot of engagement with the residents of the area, and that the city tried to work things through with them. So I would hope that we will be committed to doing the same thing in the future and trying to come to a best possible outcome.
Certainly, and I think kind of a theme that I'm hoping to reiterate through this adoption of this plan is that it is a plan to try and help us understand where transportation needs are going into the future, but it's up to each jurisdiction to right-size their own transportation element of this.
Damien, are you able to quantify the percentage of additional traffic you'd have to see along that stretch in order to warrant looking at an expansion of the lanes?
Well, so really it's a matter of congestion, and when congestion starts causing either safety or operational instability. So whether or not we see a lot of accidents along that route, whether we see long delays, excessive queuing, things like that. But really, you're kind of looking into the low 20,000 ADT, so like, let's say 20, 22,000, for sure, up to 25,000 ADT. And what is the...
Well, it depends on which model run you're looking at, but it gets close to 20,000 by 2050, according to the demand model, if you see that southern growth region happen. Today, it's only at 9,000. So it's showing almost double the traffic in 2050 versus current day.
So the current model is kind of putting it right at that threshold I was talking about, where it may need 5 lanes. But obviously, I mean, that's one of the nice things about this document is that it gets updated every 5 years. So even like all those long-term projects that maybe are large in size, we have multiple bites at the apple to make sure that it stays a priority moving forward. So I would say when we look at the critical projects, that short-term list is obviously needs to be of a higher certainty than the long-term list because we have more time with the long-term projects to make sure that they're right.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the hearing on the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. I will go ahead and open the hearing. Is there anything from staff?
This was a plan that was developed in coordination with the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. This is tied to the SS4A program, which is the Safe Streets and Roads for All program from the US DOT. And it's kind of very unlike the MTP, which is more of a holistic approach to long-range transportation planning. This one's very safety focused, and it's kind of oriented around eliminating fatal and serious injury crashes. And so again, it was developed in tandem with MTP, and the project list shown in this plan is again similar to the MTP, unchanged from the draft version the committee saw in late July. And all the changes we made in response to federal highway comments were just kind of tweaks to the tables and providing a little more information on some projects.
Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the hearing. Anything from the committee?
Just would point out that in the travel demand model in the appendix, there's figure 15 forecast household growth, and it shows a lot of growth on the 190th and Carver area. So just be consistent with, or to reinforce what I was saying earlier, those intersections, there's going to be a whole lot of traffic and really need some consistent attention.
Thank you. Anything else? We have a motion to approve the resolution adopting the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any final comments from the committee?
Is this where we would accept the letter that we had from
We have a letter.
Pop?
Mary John here,
Yeah.
sent a letter.
Mayor Pop sent a letter to, which Mayor Hala forwarded?
Yes, this would be the time.
Yeah, okay. So does that just go in under comments for future consideration? Do we need a vote?
Do you want to vote on it?
What's the, oh, here, I'm pulling up.
Do you know what we're referring to? Okay.
I'm just pulling up the letter.
So you guys are aware and I don't
Yeah.
think we need to vote on it then.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, take a motion to adjourn
Move to adjourn.
for a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Call the regular meeting of the Ames City Council to order. Good evening, everyone. We are starting off tonight with a couple of proclamations. You guys want to? Julie, do you want to come up? Or anyone else?
They want to switch around.
This proclamation is for Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Whereas Suicide Prevention Awareness Month is intended to help raise awareness of the issue of suicide, mental health needs, and available resources in our community. And whereas on average, one person dies by suicide every 18 hours in Iowa. And whereas suicide rates have risen steadily each calendar year, and data provided by the mental health advocate, Julie Saxton, indicates that 25% of all her calls for service involve individuals actively attempting to take their own lives. Whereas suicidal thoughts, much like mental health conditions, can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, or background, and are often the result of untreated mental health conditions. Suicidal thoughts, although common, should not be considered normal and often indicate more serious issues. Whereas we reaffirm our commitment to building our understanding of mental health and substance use disorders, increasing access to education, training, and treatment for our community members, and spreading hope and vital information to people affected by suicide. And whereas the focus of Suicide Prevention Awareness Month this September is to encourage people to take the time to support the well-being of family, friends, and neighbors, and support spreading the message that good mental health is essential to the overall health for each of us, that prevention works, and that treatment is effective. Therefore, I, Amber Corriere, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Ames, do hereby proclaim September 2025 as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and I call upon the residents of our community to help raise awareness of the importance of good mental health to the overall health of our community. Julie, do you want to say anything?
Thank you, Council, for continuing to support mental awareness, mental health awareness, substance use awareness, and on behalf of all of the providers here in the community, we work tirelessly to try to help those that are struggling with mental health and substance use issues. So thank you again for supporting September as Suicide Awareness Month. I would also like to share that the Mental Health Expo will be October 16th here at City Hall again this year. We have a keynote speaker, vendor fair, and food trucks. So we hope to see everybody out there. I also have with me tonight Susan Moore, who is a social worker on the behavioral health floor. So again, thank you so much for all of your support.
Next up, we have National Fire Prevention Week. We've lost a few people, but whereas the City of Ames is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in Ames and visiting, and whereas fire remains a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and the presence of lithium-ion batteries in many household devices introduces unique fire risks. And whereas most of the electronics used in homes daily, including smartphones, tablets, laptops, power tools, e-bikes, e-scooters, and toys, are powered by lithium-ion batteries, which, if misused, damaged, or improperly charged, can overheat, start a fire, or explode. And whereas the National Fire Protection Association reports an increase in battery-related fires, underscoring the need for public education on the safe use of lithium-ion batteries. And whereas residents should follow 3 key calls to action: buy only listed products, charge batteries safely, and recycle them responsibly to prevent battery-related fires. And whereas lithium-ion batteries store a large amount of energy in a small space, and improper use, such as overcharging, using off-brand chargers without safety certification, or exposing batteries to damage, can result in fire or explosion. And whereas the proper disposal and recycling of lithium-ion batteries can help prevent environmental hazards and reduce fire risk in the home and community. And whereas the Ames Fire Department is dedicated to reducing the occurrences of fires through prevention, safety education, and community outreach. And whereas the 2025 Fire Prevention Week theme, Charge into Fire Safety, Lithium-Ion Batteries in Your Home, serves to remind us of the importance of using, charging, and recycling batteries safely to reduce the risk of fires in homes and communities. Therefore, I, Amber Corriere, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Ames, do hereby proclaim October 5th through 11th, 2025 as Fire Prevention Week throughout the City of Ames. Chief, do you want to say anything? Or, okay.
Thank you. We're excited about Fire Prevention Week this year. The theme, NFPA theme, is Charge into Safety, about lithium-ion battery safety. We will be doing school tours. We're going out to all elementary schools and giving presentations to all students K through 5th grade. We'll be doing our open house and with lots of props and fire extinguisher training. We'll actually have a auto extrication demonstration, fire hose you can use for the squirt house. What else? Freddy the fire truck. And this year, the second grade, like we do every year, the second grade students will be doing a coloring contest, and the winner of the coloring contest gets a ride to school in the fire truck. So kids are pretty excited about that. Dates and time. The fire open house is Saturday, October 11th. 8 to 9 will be a sensory friendly hour, and then open to the general public 9 to noon.
Nice job.
I was outside with some.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. I'd like to pull item 17. Is there any other items council would like to pull? No. Is there a motion to approve consent without 17?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Hi.
Aye.
Item 17, I'm just going to have Steve call attention to this one here.
Yeah, this will be a fairly easy item. It was just really to hire the consulting engineer to help design, improve the area through Somerset Village. We've gotten a lot of complaints over the years, requests for stop signs and those things, but I wanted to make sure we pulled this off because we are just hiring the consultant today. But I want the public to know the options that are being considered, because we're going to be rerouting. Perhaps one of the options will be rerouting or reducing the number of lanes through that area from 4 to 2 lanes and some other improvements. So you're not voting on it now. It's going to come back to you, but I want the public to understand what is being contemplated. We're going to go actually door to door for the businesses and get input from them too, or directly related, but it'll come back at a later time for actual approval for the council. So I don't know if you want to just go over this briefly.
Yeah, no, that's a really good summary. The concept that you see on the screen on the left was the RFP concept. Back in 2022, council directed staff to proceed with a project in this area. We had some outreach with the businesses and ultimately developed this concept to move forward with implementation through the CIP. Following the completion of the walk, bike, roll plan, we proceeded with this project with an RFP. Shive Hattery was selected as the number one firm as part of that proposal. As part of their proposal, they submitted the concept that you see on the right, which addresses the project goals, just does it in a different way. We certainly think there's a lot of merit to that design. But first, we want to go to the businesses, get their feedback again regarding both concepts, and then plan on coming back to council for final direction.
So,
Any questions for Mark?
How constrained are we to maintain the green space in the middle?
That's probably a matter of budget, frankly. We've considered quite a few options with this project. We tried to keep it as cost sensitive as possible and utilize the infrastructure that we have out there. The infrastructure is not at the end of its useful life in this area of town. We also don't foresee this maybe being the ultimate cross-section or configuration that you see in this area. When the whole street comes up for reconstruction, I think a whole lot of items could be reconsidered as far as how this whole area operates.
just to point out, that won't be in the middle anymore. Right now, it is in the middle with roadways on both sides. Really, the roadway will be on the right side. That actually will have parking and everything on the left side. It's more like a park area.
And
But you're right, you have to maintain this surface
And
area.
I'm just testing the premise here a little bit. This is a very challenging corridor for us, and we get complaints about it with some frequency. And I'm just asking the question, if we imagine a world where that green space weren't there, would that give engineers more tools in the toolbox to work with? I would far rather have a space that is better for pedestrians, cyclists, and cars than it would having just one more space we have to mow. That is not a hill to die on. And so I'm just throwing that out for consideration. And I don't know whether this is the time to do that or at a later time. But if we're going to look at this, it just seems like we should look at all the options between shore to shore.
And we'll do that right after you get feedback and come back to us with the.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have both ends of the spectrum covered with these concepts. We may end up somewhere in the middle. And we look forward to coming back to council with the input that we receive from the businesses.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution for the professional services agreement with Shive Hattery?
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Aye.
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 We'll move on to public forum. As a reminder, this is a time set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business that are not on tonight's agenda. And we would ask that you limit your comments to 3 to 4 minutes. Is there anyone who wishes to speak tonight?
Hi, I'm Carolyn Klaus, and I'm from the League of Women Voters of Ames and Story County, and this pertains to the people in front of me here. The League is going to have a candidate forum next Tuesday evening, September 30, at the Ames Public Library from 6:30 to 8. It'll be a Q&A for the community to come in and ask the candidates questions at that time. And we've also invited the fire chief, Richard Higgins, to also give a short program that evening on basically the cost, the location, and the reasons for the new fire station. I think this will get an opportunity for the community to hear about that. It'll be recorded, it'll be on Facebook Live, and then later on YouTube. So this is an opportunity for the Ames community to hear about you. So, and a week later, we're doing the Ames Community School Board forum that same night in the Ames Auditorium. And on October 23rd, we're doing the Hospital Board of Trustees at the library. It's not in the auditorium, but it'll be there. And it looks like we have about 4 more forums throughout the county. We're looking at Slater, Colo, Nevada. So we've got a busy 42 days. So watch for all of our flyers. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, we'll go ahead and close public forum and move on to item 36, updates to chapter 28, the electric rate modifications. Mr. Comm?
Good evening. Coming before you tonight, so a year ago, we had a cost of service study done by a consulting firm. One of the recommendations that they made was looking forward, they recommended small rate increases of about 1.5% per year. Council at the time said, let's send that back to URAB, the advisory board for the electric department, review that. We had made some adjustments a year ago where we changed rates, but it did not affect the overall revenue. But we're now coming back per the consultant and per review, both by URAB and by the director of finance, asking that council direct the city attorney to start drafting the proper language for review by city council. And that's something that'll take place over a series of meetings coming forward. So we're not asking for any direct approval of the rate increase until you're able to see the changes to the municipal code. And I'm available for questions.
Questions for Don? Seeing none, is there a motion to direct the city attorney to draft modifications to section 28 of the Ames Municipal Code?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks.
Thank
Don.
you.
Item 37, planning and housing, the resolution for the proposed Ridgewood Historic District. Kelly is making his way to the front.
Perfect.
There you go. Sort of.
All right. So quick summary for those that are watching at home, really. The Chautauqua Ridgewood neighborhood, you've had a reconnaissance survey that was completed a couple of years ago, identifying this neighborhood, these two neighborhoods as potentially historic districts. And city council asked for us to apply for a state grant to partially fund a nomination to the state. So we've hired a consultant and completed the analysis, and the conclusion is that it is eligible for listing on the National Register. So as part of that process, the state Historic Preservation Office requires that the local Historic Preservation Committee, as well as the city council, make a recommendation about the neighborhood as being eligible for the National Register. Staff is recommending that we support this nomination. It's our nomination, actually. So we're looking for council's approval to move ahead. It would be October 10th that the state nomination committee would review this. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Ray was not available tonight. He's been the person working on this project.
Questions for Kelly?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment, and that is that this nomination is a long time coming because we've had identified areas for potential surveys in the past, and it's nice to see another district being proposed. There is, as far as I know, there is no downside to a National Register listing. It does not obligate the homeowners to comply with any kind of design guidelines. They are not restricted in what they can do to their properties, including tearing them down, which I would not like to see. But it can make a neighborhood more desirable to live in. And homeowners elsewhere in the country have used this to advertise their properties, and it can add a lot of stability over a layer of stability that already exists. So I'm thrilled to see this, and I hope that we will support it.
Any other comments? Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anything else? Roll call.
Aye.
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 Moving on to item 38.
This item is to fulfill the initial approval of a rezoning for the Cameron School GW Carver area. So you had first reading in August with a condition that a zoning agreement to implement the master plan that goes with the zoning is effectuated. So we've updated the master plan with conditions addressing the assisted living, senior living facility, the cap on units related to sanitary sewer utility capacity, as well as some elements related to a convenience commercial zoning on the corner, specifically about the gas station that may be there and how the canopy orientation is to the south, and some other landscaping and integrated easement requirements that will also be done with future site planning. So the agreement has been returned by the property owner. It includes the limitations I described. The master plan that's in the council action form is an attachment to that agreement. So all future development will need to comply with the master plan.
Questions? Is there a motion on one of the alternatives?
I would move alternative 1. We
Second.
approve the rezoning agreement.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 Thanks, Kelly. Number 39 is instruction regarding the resource recovery and recycling campus. Good evening, Justin.
Good evening. Tonight before you, you have a contract from Story Construction. This is for construction manager as advisor services for the new resource recovery and recycling campus. So construction manager as advisor would work as an extension of the staff. For the construction of this project, we bring them in during the design phase so they can help us ensure that we have a project that's not only constructible, but also look at those value engineering opportunities for us as well, and ensuring that we get the best value out of the project when it's all said and done. So we had a RFP sent out for procurement of these services, and Story Construction was the only bidder on it, but we also looked at ensuring their scope and their services and fees were in line with what we saw in the other construction manager's advisor project, which is the Fitch Family Aquatic Center. So it's very similar to that. And we've negotiated a contract and a scope with them and before you tonight for approval.
Questions for Justin?
So just a couple, Justin. It's unusual when we have only one contractor bid in a project like this, and I feel like a little more due diligence is necessary on our part. Could you walk the council through the process that you went through in terms of reaching out to prospective bidders to encourage them to submit bids?
Yeah, so we looked at the Master Builders of Iowa has a list of contractors that are listed as construction managers as advisors. I think there's 40 to 50 contractors on there. So we reached out to all of them as well as put it on the website, advertise it like we normally do through our Ames bids process as well. So that sort of outreach is what we did with the local contractors that are listed with the Master Builders of Iowa. When we got the one contract back, obviously we looked at that and had experience with this contractor. So we felt confident we knew what we were getting from a scope standpoint. But it's also important to us to ensure that since we did not have any other fee to really look at it and compare it to, that we looked at compared to what we had for Fitch Family. So it's important that we looked and saw a similar percentage of the contract for the amount that we were being charged, looked very similar in that manner. So we wanted to make sure it was appropriate that way.
I think that answers all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, is there a motion?
Move alternative 1.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a presentation regarding East Lincoln Way. Welcome back, Kyle and Damien.
Okay. You can stay here or doesn't matter. You should be able to see the presentation. Okay. Just to kind of catch everyone up, we've conducted a corridor study of East Lincoln Way, and that runs from Duff Avenue and the intersection with Duff Avenue to the South Skunk River Bridge on the west end of that. And so we're here to kind of present the background of the study, walk through what was done, and the recommended improvements from the study today. And so we're just here to present the findings today, and then towards the end of the presentation, we can kind of talk about next steps. So we have our consultant Strand here. This is Kyle Henderson. He was kind of their project manager on this, and he's here to give a presentation. And of course, if there's any questions as we're going, feel free to ask. So I'll turn it over to Kyle to kind of step through everything.
Thanks, and thanks for having us down here today to present our study to you. Today we're going to go through, again, a quick review of the study area and roadway configuration, talk about the existing roadway from an operation and crashes standpoint, discuss the proposed roadway improvements and how we analyze that, and also provide a little summary of the public comments that we received, and then going into next steps. And again, as Kyle mentioned, if there are questions, just let us know and we'll stop and discuss as we're on those points. So this mainly is reviewing what Kyle just said. The study area on the graphic here you see went from East Lincoln Way, from Duff Avenue out to the South Skunk River Bridge, and also the intersection of Duff Avenue and East Lincoln Way was looked at as part of the study for potential traffic operation improvements as well. The existing roadway corridor itself is a 4-lane undivided roadway. The center lanes are 12 feet wide. The outside lanes are 11 feet wide with a 1-foot shoulder space to the face of curb. Traffic out there today is a little more than 10,000 vehicles per day just to the east of Duff Avenue, and it drops off from there as you continue going to the east. The updated demand model shows 2050 volumes in this area, getting to just slightly more than 13,000 vehicles per day. The existing bike and pedestrian accommodations out there are fairly minimal. From Duff Avenue to about 1,300 feet west of the Skunk River, there is sidewalk on both sides with a varying grass terrace width that's out there. And then once you get closer to the Skunk River Bridge, there is no pedestrian accommodation on the north side of the corridor and a multi-use path on the south side. When we jump back to the Lincoln and Duff intersection, look at the operations there. Today, the intersection has geometry that has shared left and through lanes on Lincoln Way itself. So this requires split phasing, which basically means eastbound traffic and westbound traffic cannot go at the same time because of that lane usage. The regional demand model was used to look at taking the existing volumes and forecasting them forward to 2050. When we throw the 2050 volumes in with the current geometry and signal timing and phasing, the intersection operates at level of service E overall, and that ends up corresponding to delays of between 64 and 71 seconds on average per vehicle during those midday and PM peak hours in 2050. Now, some of the movements do show more than 100 seconds of delay, so that's over a minute and a half of delay per vehicle. And the 95th percentile queues, which are considered maximum queue lengths, are well beyond adjacent driveways and intersections. So it's a very congested intersection with its current setup.
So before we move on, we're looking at existing. We haven't had a report, to my knowledge, on the impacts of the South Grand extension in terms of the impact on South Duff, but particularly this intersection. It just seems intuitive that there would be some benefit that the South Grand extension meant for this as well. Not to take us off field, but can you speak to that just briefly? Was there some benefit for that intersection?
Yeah. I think there was benefit. But I don't think it was quite the level of traffic redirection that the demand model that the MPO does with its long range plan updates was expecting. So it definitely pulled traffic, but we still see a very high amount of like those eastbound rights where people are trying to get from Lincoln Way to Duff. And we still see a lot of northbound lefts where they're coming from Duff to Lincoln Way. So there's still a lot of people going that way. So yeah, South Grand extension definitely helped. But even with that, we're still seeing delay, especially as you get out to 2050 as far as the current projections go.
Okay, thanks.
So moving on to looking at crashes at the existing corridor and intersection. On Lincoln Way itself, there were 81 reported crashes between January of 19 and December of 23. There were no fatal crashes, but there were 2 serious injury crashes during that time period. Then at the intersection with Duff Avenue itself, during the same January 19 to December 23, there were 52 reported crashes. There were no fatal or serious injury, but 30 of those 52 were rear-end crashes. And intersection congestion was a likely contributing factor to a majority of those crashes. We're going to jump to show a little bit of the public feedback from the information that was posted online. So this was posted out mid to late July to try to get some feedback on both existing and future. And these are a few of the comments we got summarizing existing conditions. On the left side, we have the roadway corridor, and what was listed there is it's hard to turn left off of or onto the roadway, so onto Lincoln Way. It's also uncomfortable or unsafe to use as pedestrian, notes of congestion along the roadway, and then also it's uncomfortable to use a bike on the corridor. When we look at the right side, that was comments related to the Duff Avenue intersection. The railroad was definitely brought up quite often. Also a comment talking about long waits between lights, so waiting between the next red light if you don't make it through on your green. Also, left turning can be difficult. There were people talking about wanting dedicated turn lanes, and also that pedestrian crossings at the existing intersection are uncomfortable. So we're going to look at the corridor itself and what the proposed improvement was to the roadway corridor. This is to the east of Duff Avenue again. We're looking at a 3-lane road with 2 travel lanes and a center 2-way left turn lane. So the center lane for turning will be 14 feet wide. The travel lanes on either side are 11 feet with a 2-foot wide shoulder to the face of curb. The proposed roadway, as shown, fits within the existing right-of-way. The bike and pedestrian accommodations is revised to have a 5-foot sidewalk along the entire north side of the corridor and a 10-foot multi-use path on the south side of the corridor. Now, there would be a 4.5-foot terrace between the curb and either the sidewalk or the multi-use path. And there's also discussion of additional pedestrian crossings that will be talked about on the next slide. When we look at the anticipated roadway volumes, the 2050 daily and hourly volume projections are within the acceptable range for a 3-lane roadway in this corridor.
And what would those be?
So in general, you don't want to have roadway volumes for 3-lane above, say, 18 to 20,000, and we're in the 13,000 range. And also we were looking at hourly, kind of the breakdown, because you could have, say, a very peak hour, and we don't really have that here. So hourly volumes don't really go above about 1,000, which is well within what a single lane is able to accommodate in each direction.
So it's the same anticipated, you're using the same anticipated volume that we just saw on the prior slide.
Correct. Yep.
So do we have numbers on pedestrian volume on this corridor? I don't remember seeing it. I'm trying to look through, see if it's there.
We would have ped counts and bike counts at the intersection. But really the corridor itself, I'm not sure that we have good count or good data along the corridor. I mean, anecdotally, it's relatively low.
My experience has been that it's relatively low. I'm just wondering if we're providing these pedestrian crossings, is that going to increase the pedestrian traffic because people will think, oh, I can walk and I can get across? Or are we creating something that there's no call for? Obviously, I believe we can change people's habits, and I think that's a good thing. But I would love to know how many people actually walk down there.
Well, I
You
think
get a lot of traffic that, I mean, there are a lot of, I mean, there's some apartment hotel living
True.
down there. So I think especially folks who maybe don't have cars are kind of forced into walking
Mhm.
along that corridor. That's just my observation, I guess.
Well, I think one theme that I hope resonates throughout the presentation that maybe resonates with every project that we do is that we've always felt as staff that we have a pretty strong mandate to have a multimodal approach to design. So sometimes looking at the volumes of peds and bikes and other modes is really critical for design, but then there's also times where if there's simply a missing element that needs to be added to a corridor, regardless of the amount of use, because it feeds into behavioral changes across the entire city, if you can think about it that way.
So can you go back? Do you have a map that shows the multi-use trail? I think it'd be helpful to orient that.
I think this map would probably show.
Yes.
So the bottom right-hand corner is where the South Skunk River Bridge is, and you can see the connection to the trail up to that existing multi-use path on the south side of the roadway.
Right.
What this project would propose to do is basically continue that path all the way to the Duff Avenue intersection.
And so we have a awesome trail, north-south trail on the East River Valley Trail. And then it goes west on the south side of Lincoln Way, and it ends about at the UPS store. And then it's done. And so we can, I completely agree. I would love to see a better connection between that point all the way to Duff, but then there's nowhere it goes after that. So I just want to keep in mind, we can build this extension, and I favor it, but understand once you get to that intersection, runners and cyclists and pedestrians have nowhere further to go. It's terrible in every direction. It's basically a terrible sidewalk condition every direction. So long range, hopefully we'll be able to see improvements. I think this is an important segment to close, but I just don't want people watching this thinking this is going to be this great connection, because it's a connection to we don't have anything there at that point.
I think it's a very good thing to highlight. And we look at this segment in adding things like a trail on the south side as an incremental improvement. We fully expect that as development occurs along Lincoln Way between Grand and Duff, for that to also have a trail. I think that hasn't been determined like exactly what side. I think we've always thought with the link development, you'd have a trail on the north side. So there's probably some intersection crossing that needs to happen. And then also, it's a challenging, tight corridor, but we would hope to also bring a trail from Lincoln Way along South Duff down to South 3rd, where the trail kind of continues on down to Iowa Creek.
That's going to be a challenge. And I don't think, council can correct me, but I didn't think the trail segment for the link I didn't think we were going to have trail on the north side on that preliminary schematic. And we don't have to solve that now.
Right.
But I didn't think they had room for that on that configuration.
There'll definitely need to be a trail between Lincoln Way and Duff added at some point.
Right. Thanks.
Kyle, is there anything more to say on this?
No, just, what was shown here for crossing locations are some examples of how you could maybe get a crossing on the west portion, middle, and east. These are not final locations. This is just kind of a concept to be then developed further, just to provide ideas and get those comments.
And I think that is a good thing to highlight. So this study is looking at the operations, looking at safety, looking at kind of conceptual configurations of the road. But our engineering division in Public Works, when they do the reconstruction of this segment, will actually finalize those design elements. So if there's, I think to your comment about, is there some unnecessary crossings? I think some of those things can be determined when engineering does the actual design and the public outreach that goes with that design.
So just also wanted to highlight some of the safety benefits of a 3-lane roadway versus a 4-lane roadway. There is improved safety. There's reduced rear end and left turn crashes due to that dedicated left turn lane. Studies have shown between a 19 and 47% reduction in total crashes. There are fewer right angle crashes. Side street motorists have fewer lanes to cross. So we have 3 lanes instead of 4. There's also fewer lanes for pedestrians to have to cross. And also with that center turn lane, if you site the crossings correctly, you can put in a median refuge to make it 2 crossings of one-way traffic at a time, make it a little more comfortable. And you also do get traffic calming, so you have more consistent speeds. And this is trying to make a more community-focused environment that accommodates the needs of all users. This is information that was from a FHWA one-page summary of road diet information.
Why do you think people still have a bias against road diets? So I definitely hear people refer to that middle turning lane as a suicide lane, but the data seems to show that it actually reduces the risky crashes to have a dedicated turning lane rather than, I assume, what the alternative is where you have 2 lanes going either way. Then you really get some nasty crashes, I assume. So, I just, is that, so we're seeing here that the data shows that that is not, in fact, a suicide lane, right? But we hear that term a lot. So any thoughts on that as someone who's done this work?
Yeah, so a couple of points. One thing you have just for, say, left turn conditions. Yes, it is a shared lane. There has to be some give and take of people who are using it and knowing where you can't get into the lane 1,000 feet before you get to the driveway. But when we just look at the turns themselves, if you think of yourself, say you're coming up to a driveway and there's one on the other side and you're both stopped in that left lane, neither of you can see the outside lane very well, and that leads to something called a dual threat crash. Whereas with the center turn lane, even if you are in close proximity, you're kind of right in line with the other car, you have a better chance of seeing past them to make sure you have a good gap. So that's one of the big benefits you have.
I see.
Also for the left turn, it's the idea of, everything's a little smaller, a little closer, so you just have less space to cross. So that definitely helps. They have to be implemented on the right corridor. Once you get to a certain volume threshold, yes, it's not a good idea, but this corridor and this segment definitely seems to be within a very nice threshold, and it should be something that would be a benefit for this area as it continues to develop and trying to draw some more folks and multimodal users to the area.
What's been the public response? And maybe you're going to cover that later, but what's the public response to this proposal? Going to 3 lanes from 4 lanes?
We will cover it later too, but there is definitely a skepticism on if 1 lane in each direction is enough.
Is that a nice way of saying it, or is there a much stronger opposition?
The opposition in the public comments, there was quite a bit of it. I don't know if it's down to we didn't pose enough information to where I wonder if some people are thinking of the conditions the west of Duff Avenue, which is definitely a lot higher volume. Whereas this specific segment with the volumes we have, this doesnn't seem to be a bad location to do this.
Yeah, we throw on the word bias. We actually just did this up on 24th Street, and I don't think people are happy with it. And I want the record to show I love Damien and everything he does. So this is just sort of an outlier. This is my ward. I have a lot of negative feedback. I don't know what bias means. I just think people don't like it.
Well, I guess what I mean by bias when I say that is that data may show that traffic flows better and is more safe, but people still don't like it because of a preconceived notion they have about the concept. That's all I mean when I say bias, is that the data, when you actually look at the measurable data you get from a roadway, may tell a different story than, say, anecdotal or gut instinct kind of stories.
But all that would work in the theoretical. We've actually done this.
So to that point, Damien, do we have any data on 24th to show sort of the quantitative changes that have taken place since we made the change?
Well, we haven't done an after study.
Okay.
But what I can tell you is that, because we've been talking about tonight, at least in the MPO capacity, about modeling. It's very common in legacy roadways that you have multi-lane roads. So when in doubt, you built 4 lanes. Sure. Because the amount of investment that was done, let's say in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you didn't have time, and a lot of jurisdictions didn't have the technical know-how or the ability to run a detailed model. So you see a lot of streets that are overbuilt, frankly, or overbuilt. Like if you could do them first, they would have started out this way, and then you would have incrementally built them. So there's 2 things in play here that I think is important to point out. roads that don't need 4 lanes, like the congestion of a 4-lane road, when you get to that mid 20,000 ADT, they're very well behaved. But what you have out here now is extra space, and that extra space is filled up by speeding and weaving. And that causes the safety issue that Kyle was talking about, especially when you do have left turns. You have an area with businesses, those left turns are going to happen. So it's functionally a 3-lane anyway, if you think about it, but it's a 3-lane with an offset. And then the other piece of it is, I think that we've always tried to do when we come forward with these studies is that if you don't need an extra lane of paving, that is a financial liability to any jurisdiction. Like you have an entire lane of pavement that no data supports being out there, but you're paying for it and you're maintaining it. And taxes or road use, either bonds or road use taxes are paying for it. So I think an important theme when we do these studies and we're trying to kind of air fingers, quote, right size these projects, it's not only a safety and an operations, but it's a fiscally sustainable solution to only build what and maintain what you need to have out there. But yes, it will feel as like a loss. If you're somebody who's just trying to get through this area and you could weave around cars and not have to wait behind anybody, it feels like a loss to you. And that is a thing that's maybe a growing pain or something that has to be kind of dealt with over time. But what I can tell you is that unless we absolutely have to have it, you won't see an undivided multi-lane road in any jurisdiction. This isn't just Ames. This is a change in how transportation is done.
I appreciate that. I have a question on the traffic counts. So the 24th Street example, we're looking at almost exclusively cars. But on East Lincoln Way, you also have a truck traffic because there's a commercial district there. How does the truck traffic influence our thinking about 4 lanes versus 3 lanes, or does it?
No, it absolutely. So it's when we look at the traffic modeling, you would look at how many trucks are like the level of trucks, because that creates an operational capacity change. So the more trucks there are, the more congested things are. But really, when you look at a corridor like East Lincoln Way and truck access, it's more about the geometry of how things get designed, which isn't something that gets looked at this stage, like when we're looking at a traffic model. But that when I was talking about with the engineering division doing their design, and they will look at like radiuses, turning movements, things like that of the actual physical design to make sure that those trucks are accommodated.
As a non-traffic engineer, that seems like an important component, that where there was substantial truck traffic, that would tip the scale in favor of 4 lanes as opposed to 3. And I wanted to make sure I say one thing that I love about what we're doing. We are never probably in our lifetime going to be able to solve South Duff as being a bike-friendly corridor. It's just super hard. And I wish, Damien, we could have had you in the mix when that was being redeveloped a long time ago. We wouldn't have the same corridor we have today. This is a critical time to be providing the kind of analyses you're doing. I'm more interested in the multimodal component of this and getting it right now, as opposed to looking back in the rearview mirror and saying, I wish we had better planning. Because South Duff is an example, in my opinion, of very poor planning, and you can't add that in because of the setbacks to those businesses. That ship has sailed unless we're prepared to take out a bunch of businesses. But now is the time to make sure we get this right on this Lincoln Way corridor.
And I had just one other question, excuse me, whether or not, and maybe I missed this, but what is the anticipated delays then? We had the 64 to 71 seconds during peak hours for 2050. And what are those right now?
I think maybe we can let Kyle kind of finish talking about the intersection, because the next slide shows exactly what you're talking about.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so here we'll jump back to the intersection, and on the right side, we have a schematic of what things could look like out there in the future. The east leg, that's where we begin that 3-lane section. So you can see it ends with a left turn bay to head south on Duff Avenue. The west leg, as shown, is just a transition. There is no changes there other than restriping the pavement to add in that left turn bay. The far south lane becomes a right turn only lane, and that addresses some of the heavy eastbound right turn volume Kyle was discussing earlier. There is no change to the Duff Avenue footprint. It stays within that footprint. And with the new arrangement of the Lincoln Way with dedicated left turn lanes, we can get rid of the split phasing and get to a more efficient cycling of the signal. So with those signal operations, we remove the split phasing. Now we are able to get things running a little bit better, a little bit more freely. The eastbound right turn bay, that is a dedicated right turn bay, allows better use of that right turn arrow for traffic that's going eastbound and heading south on Duff. So when we look at those future proposed operations with this new arrangement, we get to level of service C with only about 31 to 34 seconds of delay during the peak hour. The eastbound and westbound legs have quite a bit of a reduction of queue. You do see queuing benefits on Duff, but it's a little more limited as we haven't changed lanes. Another point is that off-peak queuing will get better because the intersection will process traffic at a better rate at all times a day. So then this bottom table kind of gets to your question where we're looking at, so this is a comparison of peak hour, looking at the 2027 build year, which is just about the same as what we have out there today, and those 2050 horizon years. So if we look at existing traffic, we're running about an overall delay of level of service D, which equates to about 43 or 42 seconds per vehicle on average. So some are more, some are less, but we equate it to be an average delay of about 42 seconds a car today during the PM peak hour. With the improvement of the geometry, we get to level of service C with about a 26-second delay. So we've reduced about 16 seconds per vehicle every day during those peaks. When we look at that horizon year, we have higher volume. So that's when the existing geometry works poorer. So in that PM peak hour, we're at 64 seconds of delay, which is a level of service E. And our improvement shows a level of service C with 34 seconds of delay. So in that future year, you're saving about 30 seconds per vehicle during that PM peak hour.
Thank you.
I think something important to point out on this slide too, the nice thing about this reconfiguration of the lanes and like Kyle was saying, removing of the split phase allows this, kind of brings this intersection from a delay and operation standpoint more closer to the rest of the intersections along Duff Avenue. Right now, as it stands today, when you run our ITS and our adaptive network, this type of intersection is going to be constantly asking for more time because all this extra delay for our adaptive system, the way it's set up, this intersection just says, give me more time, give me more time. So it really kind of creates a disproportionate weighting across the whole. So this has only improved the intersection. It helps us improve that leveraging of our ITS network that we have along this corridor.
So here we just have another slightly larger blow up of looking at the corridor from Duff Avenue, which is in the upper left-hand corner, out to the Skunk River Bridge. Just we wanted to show you kind of the whole extent of what this could look like with this concept. Again, this would have to go through engineering further, but this is kind of where we're at for what we've laid out for the improvements. And then we'll talk also a little bit about kind of where the costs are with this as we move forward here. So first we'll get to that public feedback item that you were mentioning. So we did get 683 responses during that few weeks that we had in there. If we look at the left side, that is talking about just the East Lincoln Way 3-lane section. This is where I said, yes, we got quite a bit of level 1, which was 1 star, so strongly opposed, versus 5, which is strongly support. You can see in that East Lincoln Way section, there was a lot of people voting 1 for that, saying they do not want this. And many of the opposed, it was due to that 1 through lane in each direction and worried about the congestion it may cause.
I'm not sure if the people can see that. Can we just read that to make sure people can?
Which part?
Numbers?
So the numbers on that. So.
Okay. So it was basically asking him to rate 1 through 5 stars. 1 star was basically strongly opposed. 5 stars is strongly support. So if we look at East Lincoln Way, the level 1, which would be strongly opposed, was more than about half. It was about 360-ish respondents out of the 683 that we had. And then every other spot basically varied between 70 and 90 on if they would support it at a higher level.
Great, thanks.
And then the Duff Avenue and Lincoln Way improvements had a higher favorable rating at closer to a 2.8. And that one was a little bit more kind of distributed amongst all of the different levels, but still level 1 was the highest there. And again, there were concerns about if we only had 1 lane each way, would it help? And the thing about Lincoln Way that really, Lincoln Way and Duff, that gets you the benefit is, yes, we go to one lane for a through, but that's not necessarily the heaviest movement there. And by freeing the intersection up, that's what allows that one to operate so much better once we can get rid of the split phasing. Now we'll pull out just a few of the comments. So left side, this is again looking at the roadway cross section. We had comments talking about concerns about the congestion from the conversion to a through lane. Some people responded that they believe there's not enough bike and ped to warrant the path sidewalk. Then there was the concern about large vehicles moving slow and not being able to pass them because you don't have that second through lane. But then we also had comments that specifically stated they liked the bike and pedestrian accommodations and they did support the 3 lane. So it was a mixed bag kind of the different sides of support for that corridor. When we look at the intersection itself, one of the biggest response was the railroad crossing will still cause delays, which is true. But again, you get a better operating intersection, it will be able to recover quicker when you do have that railroad blocking that north leg. There's also concerns about ISU or visitor traffic if they'll get confused with the new layout. That's the same with almost any improvement. It's a little different, but people get used to it. It's not anything that's an unusual layout. A lot of people talking about wanting a new connection to the east of Duff Avenue up to Lincoln Way, and then also support for making sure that crosswalks are clearly marked.
Yeah, it's interesting to me in looking at the survey questions that there wasn't much information in the questions themselves about the safety improvement. It was, we're improving PED services or bike infrastructure. And I wonder if pairing the safety aspect with the change would have yielded different results. If people just think we're doing it because the folks who are walking and biking are going to have a new place to walk and bike more efficiently, they might not support it as much as they would if they realized that the road diet could yield safety returns.
Yeah, that's always the hard part about how you craft that message and trying to provide enough information, but not going too much. So, this is where we ended up with the questions we posed at this point. This is still just a planning side thing. So this will go back to get more feedback during design as well. So this is kind of a snapshot of what was asked at this point. There's definitely a wide range of responses. In the document, the report itself, we have more comprehensive summary of some of those in there as well, and appendices that can be looked at. So there's a lot of stuff that's good to start with, and can refine as the project goes forward.
And was there, as part of the model, just looking at east of Duff Avenue to the point of if there's a train, if you're in that right-hand lane and you're wanting to turn right, but there's a train and perhaps those 2 lanes on Duff are full, now are you keeping people from moving at all? You know what I'm saying?
Yep, that is
right
definitely
turn, and you're behind that person and you want to go straight.
that is definitely a
So was
limitation.
that modeled at all? Or-
It's hard to model a crossing location with what we were doing for the modeling software. Yes, if you get to the situation where the crossing is closed for a long enough time that Duff does back up there, you could have a case where once that right turner gets to the front of the lane, at that point you can't really continue to the west on Lincoln Way itself. It's hard to know exactly how often or how long that would occur. Hopefully there'll be at some point some other things, other ideas for the crossing in the future. But again, as they were talking earlier, that's something that's out in the future.
I think that's a really good question. We can't know that.
Well, no, we do know. So like with the study, we know the current counts and we know how many people are turning right so westbound rights turning up towards the crossing. So there's in that configuration, is not changing. So we have 2 full lanes of northbound traffic going up to the Duff Avenue crossing. I guess I don't have it sitting here tonight, like how many vehicles that is, but it's a large amount of queues that can queue up. So the cycle, when the cycle runs under this proposed configuration, east and west will go together. So as people are kind of westbound traffic, and it's a small amount, like Kyle was saying, like the peak hour traffic is not very high. And the proportion of people turning right to go north towards the crossing, we see it today, where when that crossing is closed, people will continue west. Over
That's
to
what I was
Grand.
going to suggest is people adapt a lot to those trains. So if there's a train blocking the intersection and Duff starts to back up, they're going to go to Grand and go under.
But that's not Anita's question. Anita was saying you're going west. Maybe I misunderstood it.
Yeah.
But you're going west and the person in front of you wants to turn
No.
north. You're stuck.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I understand that. What I'm saying is typically that person who would be turning right is going to change their mind
And would go.
and goes to Grand. That's often what would happen is they would choose to.
What if they don't? You're stuck.
Well, that's rare. But I mean, that's rare. The fact that, traffic would have to back all the way up to Grand is rare. That, for that crossing. It's just low risk, I think.
Well, they won't be able to turn right on red if there's somebody in front of them that wants to go straight. But the intersection will cycle, and so it will clear that person, and they'll be able to turn right and go. You just wouldn't be able to have a free yield on red.
Yeah.
So, and one thing that's important to point out, I understand that there are concerns about the configuration, but if you look at multiple major intersections on South Duff, so Lincoln Way, if this proposal moves forward, South 3rd and Duff has specialized lane configurations based upon heavy turning movements. South 5th is the same way, and we just finished South 16th and Duff, which has specialized lane configurations, all exactly for this exact same traffic pattern issue that we have. I think to your comment earlier about like if we could do it again, could we spread out some of the commercial district along South Duff? That certainly would help some of this unbalanced demand that we're dealing with. But I think I think that's important to point when we look at all these studies along these intersections, like South 16th had its own study and Duff had its own study. We're just dealing with a very challenging traffic pattern that needs some unique solutions. And yes, I think when the public sees that, they're probably like, I don't like that. I'd be with them. I'd much rather have a standard intersection if we could do it all again. But I think what we're trying to do is match up to the way people are actually traveling and make a corridor as multimodal as we can.
Okay, moving on to a quick discussion of the opinion on probable construction cost. The corridor that was shown in that last slide comes out to about slightly more than $3 million was the anticipated construction cost. I want to note that it is a similar cost to just reconstruct the roadway with the existing geometry. The current construction budget is $3.6 million for this project between a couple of different funds, and the cost above did not include any water main replacement, which would be handled through a separate utility fund. So next steps, looking for direction from City Council on whether to utilize the study's recommended improvements and then proceed with final design of the 26-27 Arterial Street Pavement Improvements Project at the next meeting, October 14. Then as that would move forward, final design of the preferred corridor improvements looking late 26 to early 27. And then any reconstruction wouldn't be till 27, 28, depending on project phasing.
I don't know if we're saying the same way I'm recommending. I'm recommending we not take any action tonight.
No.
You're
nothing.
saying action will be taken.
October
14th.
The next
Yes.
meeting
Yep.
is the current plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we'll be taking public comment at that time as well, not this evening.
Right.
This is really just to have the council oriented to the study, what the findings are, what the professional recommendation are, make sure that any like major questions get answered.
Great. Other questions for staff? All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to hearings. First is a hearing on the amendment to the FY26 adopted budget. Good evening, finance team.
Yeah, good evening. We have a couple items on the agenda tonight. The first one is the amendment to the budget for FY 25-26. Before I give it over to Nancy to give a brief overview, just want to note quickly that we had an incorrect dollar amount on the resolution amending the dollar. So the description basically of the agenda item Instead of 115,000 thereabouts, it should be $110,890 and $890,937. The materials in the packet were correct. We've consulted with the city attorney. He didn't see any issues with moving forward on the agenda tonight. So turn it over to Nancy.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. So this is the first amendment to the adopted 25-26 budget for this year. Typically, it just consists, for the most part, of carryovers, typically of CIP projects. Our carryover was a little bit lower this year than it was last year. And I think we pretty much described in the packet that you received, which had the correct totals in it, everything that was being carried over. But we'd be glad to answer any questions about any of the carryovers if you saw anything that you wondered about.
Questions for Corey or Nancy?
These are all budgeted projects.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and open the hearing. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak on this item? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the hearing. Any other comments? Is there a motion?
I'd move we adopt a resolution amending the fiscal year 25-26 budget to increase expenditures by $110,890,937 for carryover amounts from the previous fiscal year.
I'll second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Item 482 is a hearing on the sale and issuance of general obligation corporate purpose bonds and providing for the levy of taxes.
Good evening again. As part of our budgeting process, we include a general obligation bond issuance each year to cover a number of different projects. This last budget year, we held hearings on March 25th, 2025, in a not to exceed amount of $13,735,000. That comprised of a fire station alerting system, as well as some other mostly street projects, some improvements to some trail projects, and then some improvements also at the municipal airport. We took bids on our bonds this morning and have Suzanne Gerlach, our financial advisor from PFM, to report the results.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So first of all, congratulations on the Moody's AA1 rating affirmation. That is just one notch below the AAA highest rating possible. These were 12-year non-bank qualified bonds, which is how we do the traditional CIP bonds. Today, we received 13 bids from over 42 different banks. As a reminder, our goal for competitive sale is 3 bids, and we got 13. So congratulations for the tremendous interest. That's the most bids I've seen recently in any bond sale that we worked on. True interest cost, again, each annual maturity of municipal bonds gets its own coupon rate, its own yield, and its own price. And we use a true interest cost method to determine the winning bidder based on the coupons, the yields, and the underwriter's discount that the underwriter is bidding with, and we call that the true interest cost method. The true interest cost from the winning bid to the last place bid was 3.04% from the winning bid to 3.22% for the 13th place bidder today. So very condensed group of bids, which tells us we got market consensus today. The winning bid was provided by KeyBank Capital Markets out of Cleveland, Ohio. They have been very aggressive lately in Iowa. So I think this might be one of the first times they've won the city's bonds. They were at 3.0473% for a true interest cost. The second place bidder that we call the cover bid came from Jeannie Montgomery Scott out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, who was very sad at just 1 basis point behind the winner. So again, very close range today. When we look at pricing and how you compare to the national BVAL AAA scale, the bonds were just 20 basis points over the AAA scale for pricing. So you helped set the market today with these bonds. We did receive premium pricing, so we were able to reduce the par amount of the bonds to $12,530,000 with a premium of $1.19 million. So fully funded the project fund for all of the city's projects and were able to reduce the par amount. We did restructure to match the city's pre-levy. The first principal payment will be paid June 1st, 2026 and matches the approved budget for the debt service fund for the fiscal year. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead and open the hearing. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing. Questions, council?
I always like to comment in these situations that a lot of this is due to Steve Shanker's fiscal management and just your work, Corey, and your team, that we're in a situation as a city that we can achieve these. So this is sort of like the public sort of affirmation of where our fiscal house is. So just want to acknowledge the work that you've done to position us as a city to borrow like this.
Thanks.
I was at a program, I mentioned this before the meeting, the Iowa League of Cities, where there was a presentation on the instability that we have as we think about how cities are going to tax and how we're going to generate revenues going forward. So we're not sure what the legislature is going to do. But a point that was made that I had never considered in the last several years of this was the impact on bonding. Because it will impact a city's ability to repay bonds. And I'm just going to throw you a softball and not necessarily looking for a large treatise, but can you give us just a couple sentences on when the legislature changes the way cities are able to generate revenues, how that impacts our ability to bond? That's a sort of a big softball question.
Yeah, so two things come to mind. First is the city's rating. You're very highly rated. And so I want to say 10% of this scorecard from Moody's is based on what they call institutional framework, which is all about the state laws that the city operates under. It used to be AAA. With the last round of changes, it's now AA for the state of Iowa, for all cities that operate in the state of Iowa. Further restriction or reduction of growth metrics could pressure that. It's hard to know. The debt service levy is unlimited, so that remains a credit positive for cities. Projecting valuations will be complicated, right? If they were to eliminate the residential, we saw 3 different versions last year, not knowing what we're going to see this year. If the residential rollback were to be eliminated, there would be an unintentional shift of tax burden from commercial to residential. That we quantified in our analysis that we did for the Iowa League of Cities, that PFM did for the Iowa League of Cities. Depending on if there's limitations to the growth in the general fund, taking out the net new growth of the 2% cap that was proposed, that does help the city of Ames that is continuing to have steady growth. But for communities that don't have other new growth and rely on revaluations to keep pace with expenditures, 2% is going to be very hard to keep pace with expenditures when union contracts are 4 to 5%, 3 to 4 or 5%. Obviously, benefit levies are unlimited. As long as some of those other levers in your budget remain uncapped, it will help. But it is going to be more and more challenging to balance the general fund for municipalities going forward. Debt service levies are unlimited. When it comes to projecting, it gets complicated when you go city to city, what the impact specifically on debt service.
Yeah,
TIF could have and especially communities that use TIF to pay debt service. Ames does not, just has very little debt that's abated by TIF. But other communities have highly leveraged TIF and would be very exposed. TIF is highly exposed and highly, I would say, at risk under the most recent proposed legislation. So Ames is set to weather those storms however they may come. But
so that was a really helpful answer. And just to make sure I understood what you said at first, that just in what the legislature did last year as a statewide effect of that lowered all municipalities,
cities,
just out of the gates.
Yep.
Am I saying that correctly?
And that was in the original House File 718 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay. So special thanks to the Iowa legislature for making it more difficult for cities to carry on our people's business. Thanks for that.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll move we adopt the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Moving on to item 43, proposal to enter into a sewer revenue loan and disbursement agreement.
All right. This agenda item is related to a water resource restoration sponsored program project related to the Highway Creek. Essentially, what it does is the proposed amendment amends a 2023 issuance that we had with about $7 million and about 17 years left. We have a 3% interest rate. And so the way that the program works is that they reduce the interest rate of an existing loan and then provide you a 0% loan on the difference. So I thought it'd probably just be easier to walk you through maybe what it looks like. So yes.
Not for me, but for.
Right.
Other people.
That's always what it is. It's always for somebody else.
I want to go smaller. I'm actually good at this.
There we go. Are you good, Steve?
I think I can even see it.
So we have 17 years left. This will go to the B here. So this is our new loan. The top is our existing loan. So we have 17 years left. You can see we're currently paying 3%. So you can see the total debt service over the life of the loan will be about $9 million or just over. So what they do is they amend the interest rate to 2.5%, and they add on the $337,000 for the sponsored project at 0%. That's why there's no interest there and no service fee. And then you combine those two and you come up with a total debt service that's just a little bit under what we would have paid as an alternative if we'd not utilize the funding. So great opportunity for us to utilize an existing loan, reduce some of the contributions to that project. The program doesn't exist anymore since interest rates have gone up. So we're probably one of the last ones to utilize the program. So that's it.
Right, go ahead and open the hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing. Council, any questions or comments?
Corey, why is this going away?
That's a good question. I think it's because the program, the SRF program, had been very successful and rates were very low because I think they borrow money and then pass it along, and it's a federally issued loan or officially federal program. And so as interest rates rise and they're trying to remain competitive, I think we just borrowed recently at 3% or thereabouts, which is higher than the 2% or 2.25% we received before. So yeah, I think they stopped several years ago when they started seeing higher interest rates.
Yeah. It's been a great program for Iowa cities.
Yeah, we just missed out on the opportunity to utilize that for the water pollution control facility where we're borrowing $60 million. That would have been a pretty good one, but just a little late.
Yep.
All right, is there a motion authorizing and approving the loan and disbursement agreement providing for the issuance and securing the payment of $337,000 in sewer revenue bonds?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Aye.
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 And thank you, Corey. Final hearing of the evening is on the FY26 shared use path maintenance contract. Justin?
Yeah, this is a bid we received from a contract for maintenance on our asphalt shared use paths, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the project here tonight for you take action on it.
Go ahead and open the hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, close the hearing. Questions?
You want to tell us where it is?
There's a number of locations, so there are some, you asked a great question, Tim, but I didn't have it up.
All right.
So Grand Avenue from 20th up to Wheeler, and then the Skunk River Trail basically behind Homewood Golf Course down to North River Valley Park, and then along Mortensen Road, the north side of the road there from the Ames Middle School property line over to Welch Road, just south of the Iowa State Towers.
All right, is there a motion accepting the report of bids?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And a motion on the resolution approving final plans and specs and awarding a contract to TK Concrete of Pella, Iowa in the amount of $135,384.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thanks, Justin.
It's going to be a great project, particularly on the Grand, being able to go north to south there. It's going to be an Autobahn for multi-use trail.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Forward to it.
Moving on to item 45, first reading of the ordinance regarding the establishment of non-resident sanitary sewer rates and certain water and pollution control fees.
So council may recall, back in July, you had a request from Maple Grove and a few other properties on the west side of Ames to connect into Ames City Sewer Service, even though they're outside of the city limits. So this is one of the steps in order for us to accomplish that, as council gave us direction to do that. We need to establish a rate for them in our municipal code. So this ordinance would establish that and the associated charges.
Questions? Is there a motion?
Move we approve on first reading?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call. Aye.
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 Thank you.
Item 46 is the third reading and adoption of ordinance number 4572 relating to the rezoning of property at 3220 Cameron School Road from agriculture to convenience general service and FSRM excuse me, with zoning with master plan.
Move on third.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Next is dispositions of communications to council. The first one, it appears to be just an informational letter from Kevin Burke from Discover Ames regarding an update to plans for an event center within the Link development. Second item is from the Elwell Company regarding a request to remove the development agreement along 13th Street.
Tomorrow afternoon, Kelly will have a discussion with the representative from LL Company, and then we'll be back to you with some recommendations on how to proceed.
So we don't
No
need to do
action,
anything.
no action. We're working on it now.
Okay, thank you. The third item is another letter from Discover Ames asking for financial support for the to bid on the 2028 International Town and Gown Association.
I think we've done this, Gloria reminded me, and I don't remember the date. When we,
2010.
2010, the city did host that conference, and I think we shared some costs in the application costs for that, at that time. So if you want to, I think we should put it on, no memo is needed, put it on the next October meeting. First meeting is October 14th, and then you can decide whether or not to support the $10,000 match for the other two entities.
Move we put it on that future agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is a letter from Brad Trinkle regarding some traffic concerns along Oakland.
I just refer that to staff. We can see if we can follow up and help the situation or give some options.
Move we refer to staff.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have a memo from PA regarding a change order.
Yeah, that's just information. PA is trying to give you a briefing on where we are in our hiring of an outside attorney and special experts that have been advising us. So we can, I think we legally approved the change order ourselves, but we want to be very transparent and show you where we are on that outside obligations we have with those individuals.
Okay. And then the final item is a memo from Planning and Housing regarding a request for a text amendment for the research park.
Yep. Kelly has laid out a number of options that you might want to respond on that issue. The next step is whether you want to put on the next agenda if they want to. Is that what we're asking for?
Yeah.
If you want to move ahead, if you want to keep the way it is now, you make no changes. You wouldn't refer. So you want to consider some changes to that particular aspect of the code. You would put on. I'm not sure if it's going to be on the 14th or so. 14th agenda.
Move we put it on the 14th agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Then we have the reports of governing bodies. Anything from Discover Ames?
Well, we had the letter there, a lot of discussion about the convention center as part of the Link project. Completion of the feasibility study. They're hoping to have that soon, and preparations are being made to launch the fundraising campaign.
Do you know when the feasibility study is coming back exactly?
It's pretty close.
Okay.
They're massaging some
Okay.
final things. Yeah.
Got it. Anything from the Ames Regional Economic Alliance?
Haven't met.
Okay. Nothing from Story County Emergency Management. Anything from Transit?
We're meeting this week.
All right. Council comments. Gloria.
We received some emails regarding the decision by the Parks and Rec Commission to not take up urban deer hunting in Munn Woods and Emma McCarthy Lee. And I would like to move that we put that item on an agenda for us to have a discussion about it.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The other thing that I would like to bring up is the Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And if any of you at any point have an opportunity to do QPR training, which is question, persuade, and refer training, it's offered at Iowa State, and I don't know what other organizations in the area do it. It's well worth taking an hour to be trained in how to intervene if people seem to be experiencing some sort of suicidal ideation, or if they seem to be a little bit hesitant about where they stand mentally. I also want to thank the fire department and the occupational safety folks at Iowa State, because I am now officially trained on how to use a fire extinguisher, and I have one under the dais that can save lives.
Great.
So thanks to Rowdy and Adam, who gave me personal training on the fire extinguisher use, and to the fire department for all that they do to keep us
We
safe.
will look to you to save us all.
Yes. No pressure.
Okay. Bronwyn?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita.
I also had a chance to go to Iowa League of Cities, and my comment from that would be, it was interesting hearing how some communities work across boundaries, Waukee, Urbandale, Clyde, in order to make sure that they are all benefiting. So it was a good time.
Good. Tim?
I like to make plugs for some of our different parks, but I'll make a plug for County Park. I had a chance on Sunday afternoon to go up to Soper's Mill and hadn't been there for a while. So Soper's Mill, you go up to Gilbert on 69 East on the gravel road, and you see the signs, and it is a gorgeous trail. Spent 2 hours up there, and just reminded what a great resource our county park system is. And so I like to plug our city parks, but it's nice to plug a county park. It was gorgeous. So this fall, get out and explore city and county parks. That's it.
Rachel?
Nothing tonight.
Emily?
Well, we are 1 month out from the joint meeting with Iowa State student government. Now that there is an actual local affairs committee, our first order of business is going to be setting the agenda and picking some topics for the agenda. So if any of you guys have any comments about something you'd like to talk with us about at that meeting, let me know and we'll put it on the agenda. Otherwise, nothing really new beside that.
Great. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Are adjourned.